Hello everyone, welcome back to Chef Shelley's Kitchen. So many of you probably recall, actually in the month of December, I went on a Whole30 cleansing. Just Google it if you're not familiar with it, but it's essentially a way of cleansing your body, and you get off of grain, dairy, and sugar for 30 days. Again, it's a way to cleanse your body. The nice benefit to that is, well, there are so many benefits, but it's a way of also figuring out what foods upset you, cause stomach aches or things of that nature, things you might be allergic to. And at the same time, you get the benefit of losing some weight. So actually in 30 days, I lost 5 pounds. And so continuing, I've just picked up some really good ways of preparing things without having the grain or the sugar, and yet still have all the wonderful benefits of things that taste delicious. Remember, here on Chef Shelley Thompkins, it's about simple, delicious, and healthier recipes. So I want stuff to be delicious, right? So I had to come up with some ways of doing that. So what I'm going to prepare for you today is actually a pie crust, not made with regular flour. Instead, it's made with almond flour and coconut flour, and it's mixed actually with coconut oil. So I'm going to show you how to make it, and I'm going to tell you that this is one of the most delicious pie crusts, particularly if you are making something that you want a little nutty taste to it. So I've been preparing this with my pumpkin pie, but this would go amazingly with sweet potato pie, pecan pie, I mean anything that you want a little nut and it's kind of a hint of a nut. And obviously if you're allergic to nuts, this is not for you. But again, this is only almonds. If you're just allergic to peanuts or something, then certainly you can still do this. So it's a very simple recipe. It's only 5 ingredients, and we're even going to pull out the nice little rolling pin here as well. So I actually preheated my oven at 375. That's what you just heard. So it's ready and we're ready to go. So what I'm going to do is I actually have 1 cup of almond flour. I have a ½ cup of coconut flour, and all of these things you can find in your local grocery store. You can find it at Walmart, Target, most places. And a ½ teaspoon of salt. Again, you all know I use sea salt. You also use 1 egg. And then to help with liquefying it, you're going to use coconut oil, okay? Again, you can find this in the grocery store. So what I'm going to do first is I'm going to go on and mix this egg up because I want to make sure that yolk is nicely mixed. I'm just stirring it up like so. Now, many people, when they're making this, they may put it in the blender and use their kind of the kneading tool. I just personally like being able to make it in my bowl, so that's kind of me. The coconut oil is a little tricky. I've made this now about 4 times, and the initial initial recipe that I was looking at called for like a ½ teaspoon of coconut oil. I find that that's a little bit too much for my liking anyway. So I'm starting out with just about probably 1/4 of a cup of coconut oil. I'm going to stir together, and then I've left it out here because if I find that it's still not enough, then I can just add some to it, okay? So that's what I'm going to do. I'm just combining these ingredients, making sure, just stirring it around, making sure that coconut oil is not clumped together. So you just keep stirring and stirring and stirring. Or again, if you have a KitchenAid, which I have a KitchenAid, I just personally prefer doing it this way. This allows me to kind of be up and close because our hands are going to get dirty in a minute here anyway, because we've got to roll this dough out, if you will. So it doesn't matter. So I'm just continuing to mix it together. And again, this was, and what I would say is use like just under, start out with just under 1/2 cup of coconut oil. So I'm realizing, okay, this is not enough, so we're going to now add some more. And I've kept it out just for that purpose. And it's kind of thick. It has a thick consistency to it, kind of like clumpy. It almost looks like lard if you're familiar with lard. That's kind of how it looks. So we're going to put that there. And we're going to just keep stirring this together. Stir, stir, stir. Once I get this kind of to the consistency, and I'm going to show you what it's got to look like a ball of dough. That's really what it has to look like. Once I get it to that consistency, then what I've done is I've prepared here a piece of wax paper, and what we're going to do is I'm going to roll this out once I get it to the texture that I want. And I will show you, I promise you. Then we're going to basically roll it out on this wax paper. Okay? And then we're going to cut around it, and then we're going to put it in our pan. You can see I have a Pyrex dish over here on my right, your left. So it's coming along. Again, I need more because it still doesn't have the consistency. If you can kind of look, it's still crumbly, so I need more. I just know that 1/2 cup is just too much. So like I said, start with just under 1/2 cup. I've done this so many times now that I kind of know what the consistency is, and that's why I didn't quite measure it out. So I'm going to show it to you. And what I'm going to start doing as I get this last little bunch is I'm going to start mixing it with my hands. Make sure your hands are clean, your nails are clean, because we don't want any funny business with the food. So I've, of course, cleaned my hands, cleaned my nails. Okay. So we're just going to continue. It's coming along. Now I'm going to go on at this point, and I'm going to get my hands in here because I can tell that it's just about exactly where I want it. And I'm going to show you how it's look. Basically, you want to get it so that it's like a ball, like so. Okay? So let me get the rest of the mix together. That's why I said you're going to need to use your hands. Now, this is really good. Okay, this is perfect. I don't have anything else in here. It's all here now in the bowl. Now, before I actually put that down, I need to do two things. I'm going to let this sit just for a second here in my pan. Two things you're going to want to do. You're going to want to put a little bit of the flour on the bottom because you're not wanting this to stick too badly. It's going to stick a little. And then you're going to want to put a little bit kind of like in your hand to put on your rolling pin. Okay? So just like so. And you can roll it around like this if you want to. Okay? All right, now that we have that there, we're going to take out our dough that we've made. See, it's a nice little ball. And if I find that it's too sticky, I might have to add a little more flour to it. So I'm going to first do it this way. And then I'm going to just roll it out. Now, some people might say, well, what are you doing with a rolling pin? Well, I got my first rolling pin, and I can tell I've got too much. I'm going to have to add some flour because it's sticking. But I had my first rolling pin because my dad taught me how to make homemade dumplings. So I used to use my rolling pin for dumplings, but then I saw my dad using Annie's dumplings, and if he can use Annie's dumplings, certainly I can use Annie's dumplings. They are fantastic. You get them in the freezer section. So mine is sticking a little bit here, so this tells me I need to add a little bit more flour to it so it doesn't stick as much. Okay. Now, if you don't have a rolling pin, no big deal. All you're going to do is just use a glass. Take a glass and turn it on its side, and you can use the glass, and you're going to be good to go. Okay? So again, it's sticking, it's starting to stick a little bit. Again, it doesn't come out, you know, we're modifying, you know. We're modifying, so you have to work with it. But I can tell you, it is worth it. It's so delicious, 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 delicious. Okay, and basically you want to get this so that it's out enough. It's not going to be a perfect circle because we're going to cut it. We're going to mold it to our container here in a minute. Okay, and then any extras you can just put on the side. This is a nice thing about making your own crust. You can move it around, right? Okay. All right, we're going to add just a little bit more flour because it's getting a little sticky. Another thing that I would suggest that you do, when I put it in the oven, coconut oil has a tendency to rise, cause your dough to rise, and you want to be able to have something underneath it to catch any excess oil. So just be mindful of that, okay? I always put something, a pan underneath it that has like aluminum foil on top of it. All right, we've now spread this out pretty nicely. Again, I still have a few things that are sticking a little bit here. And then what we're going to actually do is, I like being able to do two things. One, okay, I've got a little more stickiness going on here. All right, what I'm going to do is, first I'm going to put the pan right on top of it, like so. I'm going to just take my little knife, and we're going to use this again because we might have to need it on the side. But we're going to do it like this. And I'm just going to take the excess. I need to take the excess off, and I'm going to put it back here in my bowl. Okay? So don't let it go too far, because we're going to turn this over, but we're going to need some more for the edges. So just peel it off like so. Put it back in your pan. Okay. I know it's a little messy. That's why I told you to use your be sure to use your wax paper. Okay? All right, so now that we've got that, what we're going to do now, I'm just kind of clean my hands a little bit, is I'm going to turn this over. Again, it's going to be a little messy. It's okay. It's a little trick, and don't do like I did. Make sure you have enough wax paper. Okay, so look at that. Look how wonderful that is. Okay, just a little wax paper will do the trick. Okay. So one thing that I did forget, I'm going to ask my husband to get for me, is a fork. So if you could just put a fork for me, maybe over here next to my flour, that would be fantastic. Okay, so now we almost have a perfect crust. Thank you. Okay, so what you can do if you find, okay, I've got some on the edges. I mean, look how perfect that is, right? And this is homemade crust, so I'm impressed myself. Take it off the edges because you don't want it coming out. All right, now what you can do with your extra dough, you can just kind of roll it a little bit. And if you find you have to fill in a few places, just put it around the edges like so. And again, you might have a little more than you need. That's perfectly fine. Basically, I'm kind of building up the sides of the crust. So all of this is so that we can be healthier. Healthiness takes work and it costs money. So choices we make, right? So all I'm doing is I'm taking the extra dough and I'm putting it along the side so that that can be a little thicker, okay? That's all I'm doing. And then what you can do on the edges, if you want to just use your finger like so, that's what a lot of people do to make it decorative. I tend not to do that, but I'm just showing you. If you want it pretty, just put your little finger in like that. Your thumb. All right, we're almost there. Gonna go around the sides a little bit more. Again, this is not a cheap recipe. Almond flour and coconut flour are not the cheapest flours out there, so we don't want to waste anything. Okay, so once I had my husband get me the fork, because even like when you buy pie crust in the store, you need to kind of put some imprints in the okay, now we're at the end. We're at the end. We're finally there. Got a pretty pie crust, and it's healthier. I mean, really, we made pie crust out of almond flour and coconut flour, and just think about how delicious. It just makes the pie so much more delicious, I will tell you that. Okay, all right. Here we go. I want you to take a look at that masterpiece. Did a great job here. Okay. All right. Now that we've done that, I'm going to take the fork that my husband got for me, and just like you would any other pie crust, you're just going to go around in circles, because this will rise. Do the sides the same way. And then what we're going to do is we're going to put it in the oven, and it doesn't take long. You're going to let it brown. And okay, all right, so with that, I'm going to take this beauty, put it in the oven, and when it's done, I'll come back and let you see how it looks, okay? Okay, we're back. 10 minutes in the oven. And I'm going to show you how it looks, and maybe we might even be able to get a little zoom a little bit. But here you go. It's just a beautiful pie crust. You can see it's kind of browned around the edges. Just done enough. And so I'm actually making a pumpkin pie. You know, that's one of my favorites. I like it. I love sweet potato pie. I grew up on sweet potato pie, but I also know pumpkin is better for you than sweet potato. So here's the pie crust. Wonderful. This is what I wanted to show you. I'm just going to fill it nicely here with my pumpkin pie mix. Of course, you know, I've got an episode out there already if you haven't checked out some of the other videos, but you've got some episodes there on pumpkin pie. And so all kinds of good stuff. Again, I would say pumpkin pie, sweet potato pie, anything that you would want to do to that, you know, has a little nut to it, just a hint, I would say, of nut. Okay. All right, that's what we have. I'll show it to you in its final glory. And then we're going to put this in the oven and be eating this for dinner as our dessert. There you go. Homemade almond coconut flour pie crust. And I chose today to make it with pumpkin. You can make it with a whole host of other things. So thanks again for tuning in. Please remember, if you have not subscribed to me yet, do so. Click the little circle with my picture, subscribe. Certainly check out my book out on Amazon, Chef Shelley Thompkins, simple, delicious, and healthier recipes for people on the go. Thanks again. Tune in. Bye-bye. Okay, we're back. 10 minutes in the oven. And I'm going to show you how it looks, and maybe we might even be able to get a little zoom a little bit. But here you go. It's just a beautiful pie crust. You can see it's kind of browned around the edges. Just done enough. And so I'm actually making a pumpkin pie. You know, that's one of my favorites. I like it. I love sweet potato pie. I grew up on sweet potato pie, but I also know pumpkin is better for you than sweet potato. So here's the pie crust. Wonderful. This is what I wanted to show you. I'm just going to fill it nicely here with my pumpkin pie mix. Of course, you know I've got an episode out there already if you haven't checked out some of the other videos, but you've got some episodes there on pumpkin pie. And so all kinds of good stuff. Again, I would say pumpkin pie, sweet potato pie, anything that you would want to do to that, you know, has a little nut to it, just a hint, I would say, of nut. Okay. All right, that's what we have. I'll show it to you in its final glory. And then we're going to put this in the oven and be eating this for dinner as our dessert. There you go. Homemade almond coconut flour pie crust. And I chose today to make it with pumpkin. You can make it with a whole host of other things. So thanks again for tuning in. Please remember, if you have not subscribed to me yet, do so. Click the little circle with my picture, subscribe. Certainly check out my book out on Amazon, Chef Shelley Thompkins, simple, delicious, and healthier recipes for people on the go. Thanks again. Tune in. Bye-bye. Okay, we're back. 10 minutes in the oven. And I'm going to show you how it looks, and maybe we might even be able to get a little zoom a little bit. But here you go. It's just a beautiful pie crust. You can see it's kind of browned around the edges. Just done enough. And so I'm actually making a pumpkin pie. You know, that's one of my favorites. I like it. I love sweet potato pie. I grew up on sweet potato pie, but I also know pumpkin is better for you than sweet potato. So here's the pie crust. Wonderful. This is what I wanted to show you. I'm just going to fill it nicely here with my pumpkin pie mix. Of course, you know I've got an episode out there already if you haven't checked out some of the other videos, but you've got some episodes there on pumpkin pie. And so all kinds of good stuff. Again, I would say pumpkin pie, sweet potato pie, anything that you would want to do to that, you know, has a little nut to it, just a hint, I would say, of nut. Okay. All right, that's what we have. I'll show it to you in its final glory. And then we're going to put this in the oven and be eating this for dinner as our dessert. There you go. Homemade almond coconut flour pie crust. And I chose today to make it with pumpkin. You can make it with a whole host of other things. So thanks again for tuning in. Please remember, if you have not subscribed to me yet, do so. Click the little circle with my picture, subscribe. Certainly check out my book out on Amazon, Chef Shelley Thompkins, simple, delicious, and healthier recipes for people on the go. Thanks again. Tune in. Bye-bye.